Good eve, fair ladies and noble gentlemen, and welcome to Renaissance Revelations, your premier source for all things Renaissance England. We're your hosts, Shamai Williams and
Isabella Caro,
and we're here to educate you all on the Renaissance.
Hearken unto us this day as we embark on a journey to uncover the cultural, artistic, and historical wonders of thy thrilling Renaissance period. As we turn to our reporter Asher Snowrod to enlighten us on the political and religious agendas of this time. Asher?
Thank you for that delightful introduction, my friend. Now let's get down to business. Today we're going to talk about the politics and religion of this horrible era. So there's three basic types of government. We have princedoms, monarchies, and oligarchies. So basically, oligarchy is one little king and two or more little friends also in charge of everything else. So the oligarchy is going to be multiple people over the state, over the church, completely controlling everything. And a monarchy would be just one man who is essentially going to be the king or queen over everything. And then we have the princedoms. And the princedoms are kind of different because there are going to be many little areas governed by princes, at least one, but there's still going to be a king over all of them. And follow me. Now, as you can see, with this type of government, there's a lot of brokies, rich people you will never find down these halls. You'll just see broke men, broke people. He wants spare change, he's broke. Spare change. The problem with this government is that it does not leave anything for the poor, for the slums, or anybody. Then we have a dead man dying from the Black Plague. Now, another big piece of all of this is art pieces. Unlike this man over here, art pieces make sense, are important, and not broke. Many of the important art pieces we had were depictions of Bible scenes. So we have the creation, Adam talking to God, and we have many others that were very important to the time. Now, follow me again. Another important part of religious artwork was how important it was to contributing and affecting everybody's views on things. So we had the rich men that bought the art pieces, but we had the poor people like this one that didn't buy the art pieces but could just look at them. And that wasn't enough because many of the people didn't understand what they meant because the Bible was never translated into their language. Now, other concepts were born during this period. What was very important to understand was through all of this craziness, the monarchies, the oligarchies, and princedoms, it was very important to understand that the peasants stood up for themselves. Then they started to develop virtues, they started to develop communities and come together and create bigger, greater communities that would later completely negate all of this and everybody trying to get out of England, trying to get their own life, own way. Thank you for this segment. Back to you in the studio.
Huzzah! Thank you, Asher, for that enlightening information. Moving forward with tidings have reached us from our audience on which they would like to hear the latest weatherly occurrences. So we will now turn to our meteorologist, Maxwell Briggs, of excellent repute. Max?
In 1607, there was a winter, a great winter, a beautiful winter. It was a little cold, but it was a good winter. And winter was so cold, trees died. Yes, the little green things. They may be a bit taller than you. Who knows? Ships. The things that, a whole bunch of the seamen got stranded in a ship in the North Sea. All the ice blocked them in, like my pigs. It was a deep frost in December, right until the middle of the month. It's about 2 weeks of really bad frost. And then it all thawed out just before Christmas. It was a miracle, Thank God Almighty in the heavens above. Then, from the 21st of December, there was another intense freeze that lasted until mid-January at least. See, these people are all very, very cold. They're freezing to death because of this terrible winter. And he is almost dead too. Ice formed on the Thames in London, sufficient to bear all sorts of sports, preambulations, and even cooking. They couldn't even cook. They'd eat the beans raw. Okay? The frost lasted over 2 months. That's a very long amount of time. This severe weather lasted in parts of England until about the 20th Kendall. The 20th Kendall, guys. Hard frost is noted on November 3rd, 1607 to March 6th, 1608. That's like half a month, okay? That's a lot. The Firth of Forth is noted as being frozen during January 1608. And the river Exe, south of Exeter, also experienced major ice formation by the latter 3rd of January. At this latter location, damage was caused to a local weir. And you know, because it was so bad, I'm thinking of calling this a frost fair. The summer of 1610 was really hot and dry too. There was 4 months of drought. These people here couldn't drink anything for 4 months. They had to just live off sweat and their own urine. Very terrible stuff. Very, very terrible. It affected the greater part of southern and central England. Basically, 2/3 of England couldn't get any water and they were hot. You know, you would occasionally go out there and see children without anything on except their undergarments. It was a sad time, very sad. But they have gotten through it, and now they have twice as many wells because they need water, and they don't want this to happen again. In 1607, 2,000 guys died to flooding in the East Anglian towns, many of them. Actually, too many to even count, there were so many. Severe gale from the west and northwest is what caused this. If it wasn't for those big winds, no one would be flooded right now, okay? Because you know, all the big clouds in the ocean, they got pushed on shore. So there's a good bit of flooding. The tide was also really big. The tide went like way up here, okay? Okay, tide, big tide, you know? That was the high tide. The low tide was a bit lower, but not much. Also, caused a lot of salt contamination. Basically means plants don't grow because they don't like salt. Salt's just bad. We like salt. We love salt. But we can't have pre-salted corn. It doesn't work that way. Sadly, I wish we could. Anyways, so we don't know how many people died or anything, but we imagine a lot because corn doesn't like salt. And yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Maxwell. Alright, fellas, we have been requested to inform you of the incumbent dangers of plagues roaming our corridors. Please listen as we turn to our reporter Noah Freaking.
During the Renaissance, diseases were common. The worst of them all was the Black Death. Sorry. The worst of all was the Black Death. Take, for example, The Black Death was a very deadly plague. So deadly that almost everyone who got it died. This one here died the Black Death. The Black Death went on for years 1346 to 1353, wiping out mostly everyone in its path. There is also another disease called Hansen's disease, aka leprosy. Most people during this time believe that diseases were caused by demons, sin, bad smells, astrology, and the stars, stagnant water, the Jewish people. However, the main cause was poor sanitation and unclean water.
Thank you, Noah Freaking, for that enlightening information. Now we're going to move on to Brian Ricky with the popular writings of this time.
As the Renaissance goes on, many writers are producing interesting stories, like William Shakespeare's...
You want me to have to do tea, sir?
Thank you. Like William Shakespeare's Hamlet, which certainly does not fall short. William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon. While his birth date remains a mystery, it's believed his upbringing was good, as he went to a good school and liked to play outside.
John Blakey, sir.
Thank you. During his lifetime, William wrote 37 plays and over 150 poems. These numbers may not be entirely true, as some works may have been lost over time. Hamlet is a story about the ghost of the King of Denmark who tells his son Hamlet...
Your caviar, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Hamlet is a story about the ghost of the King of Denmark who tells his son Hamlet to avenge his murder by killing the new king, Hamlet's uncle. Hamlet feigns madness, contemplates life and death, and seeks revenge. His uncle fearing for his life...
sir.
Thank you. His uncle, fearing for his life, also devises plots to kill Hamlet, an interesting and dramatic story written by William Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet, written by none other than the talented William Shakespeare, is a wonderful story. Two people born into rivaling families come to love each other, but the rivalry of the families keeps them apart. Finally, Juliet fakes her own death, and Romeo, so heartbroken, kills himself. Juliet wakes up from her faked death only to learn that her love has died, so she too dies with him. Utopia, written by Sir Thomas More.
Cracker, sir.
Thank you. Utopia, written by Sir Thomas More, is another great story about an ideal society whose inhabitants exist under seemingly perfect conditions without greed, corruption, or power struggles due to the fact that there is no money or private property. That certainly does sound great. Sir Thomas More was born on February 7, 1478 in London, England. He was a humanist, a statesman, and Chancellor of England, 1529 to 1532.
Huzzah! Thank you, Brian, for that enlightening information. Moving forthwith, tidings hath reached us from our audience that they would like to hear more about the popular writers of the Renaissance period. We will now turn to Asher Snowrold for more information.
Thank you for joining us in this segment. Today, I have the great opportunity to introduce two of the most influential writers ever known to man. But before we get to that point, I'd like to introduce this segment. The writers of the Renaissance era heavily affect our own literature today. And many of the most notable writers, such as William Shakespeare, Geoffrey Chaucer, and Nicholas Machiavelli, were some of the most influential of all time. And ever since then, our literature has changed ever since. Now, contrary to popular belief, the Renaissance era was not actually like a dark era when it came to literature. It was actually very big upbringing for literature and more books, more community, and more plays, and many things like that. And I'd like to introduce my two guests, William Shakespeare and Geoffrey Chaucer. Shakespeare. Now, you have many great writers. What was your inspiration for such great writings?
This man right here. I love this man. He inspired me.
And how did you say he inspired you?
Oh, he's just an old man, and he inspired me greatly when writing my works.
Okay. Godfrey Chaucer, what have you written that has influenced him?
Well, I'd say I've written quite a few writings, and I'd say that I think he's, read a few of my writings and really taken influence from the things that I've written about.
Now, Shakespeare. It says here that you've written 37 plays and 154 sonnets. And it says that these include some of the most influential writings like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. How did you create this?
Bro, I'm just too good, bro. Literally, he inspired me so much, and I just took so much inspiration. I give it all to him. But I'm just too good, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How does it feel to be known as the greatest writer of all time?
Nobody can compare to me, but I thank him for it.
As I can see, you have great loyalty and respect to Godfrey. Do you know one of his writings you could point out that was one of the most influential? Like it says here that the Canterbury Tales was one of those. Would you say so?
Yes, I love that one.
Could you explain what that was about?
No.
But then how can you take influence from me, sir? You don't know my plan.
No. Calm down.
Count About Chaos is one of my best stories.
I'm sorry, I just...
It was about a multitude of characters.
I just simply take inspiration. I didn't say I read all your stories.
Each character has its own personality. And I don't quite understand how you could not know that. I thought you knew.
My stories are better.
You say you respect him and revere him and have great inspiration, but you don't really seem to show it. Would you say that's kind of your character in your stories, or is that something you just created yourself?
Something I created.
Yeah. And how would you say so? As someone that says they have been inspired by you to show such disrespect.
Frankly, it's a little hurtful, but he's still written some good things, so. Do you have any more questions for us relating to our work?
I do actually. So we're gonna move from Shakespeare to Godfrey.
Right.
And it says that you were most famous for writing a lot of satirical works, such as Canterbury Tales. It says a lot of the characters were making fun of real people. How would you say that is affected between the peasants, the doctors, the priests? How would you say you've satirized that?
Well, you see, I feel like a lot of writings in the past have been glorifying the rich, and I really wanted to really put the focus back on the peasants. And well, that's what I intended to do in my writings, and I really tried to show the realistic side of society and how it functions.
But some people say you made fun of them.
Well, I wouldn't say I made fun of them.
You made fun of poor people.
My brother,
No, Shakespeare. Let it finish.
I'd say that I have really just brought to light the effects of society on these classes of lower people. Not made fun, but simply related to them.
And that concludes our segment on the interview with Shakespeare and Godfrey Chaucer. I hope you learned something. And see you next time. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's broadcast. And yeah.